Hi everyone, this is Shant from Unity Devs. Welcome to our today's session where we will understand how you can use scatter gather in Mule 4. So guys, let's get started with the agendas of the today's session. Okay. So guys, these are the list of topics which we are going to cover today. Okay. So let's get started with our first topic, which is what is scatter gather basically is. So guys, from the definition itself, it is written scatter gather component is a routing event processor that processes Mule event through different parallel processing routes that contain different event processor. Okay, so guys, to understand it more clearly, I have one diagram. So in this diagram you can clearly see we receive a Mule event from message source, and that Mule event will be routed to the different routes. Okay, so you can see there are different routes as a part of this scatter gather component. So that Mule event will be routed to each route, and those will be processed parallelly. Okay, so guys, that's how it works, guys. Okay, and in the final we will get the aggregated payload after processing. Okay, and that payload might differ or it can be same based on how we are processing that Mule event inside this processing phase. So it might differ or it might be same. Okay, so let's complete that definition. So it is written each route receives a reference to Mule event and execute a sequence of one or more event processor. Each of these routes uses separate thread to execute the event processors, and resulting Mule event can either be the same Mule event without modifications or a new Mule event with its own payload. So guys, as I showed you, so it can be the same Mule event after completion of all the routes parallelly, or it can be a different one also based on how we are processing it inside the routing phase. So in the end you can see scatter gather component combines all the Mule events returned by each processing route into a new Mule event. Okay, so as you can see in the diagram, in the end all those payloads, all those Mule events will be aggregated here. Okay, and then our process completes. So that's how it works, guys. I've also prepared some different use cases to get more clarity. So moving onwards, I will cover some different POCs as well. Okay, so guys, there is one more diagram which also shows the similar behavior. Okay, so you can see we got a Mule event that will be routed to each of these routes. Those will be executed parallelly. So one thread will execute one route, another thread will execute another route, and then another thread will execute another route. So all the routes will be processed parallelly, asynchronously. Okay, and in the final we got the aggregate of all these Mule events. It can be the same one or it can be the different one based on how we are processing it in the processing phase. Okay, so it is written here, guys, each of the processing routes start executing in parallel. Okay, after all processors inside a route finish processing, the route returns a Mule event, okay, which can either be the same Mule event or without modifications, or a new Mule event created by the processors in the route as a result of modifications applied. So it can be the same also, or it can be the modified as well. Okay, based on how we are processing it inside this processing phase. Okay, okay, so guys, you can see after all processing routes have finished execution, scatter gather component creates a new Mule event here after all the processing completes. Okay, after all the processing of all the routes finishes, then it will be combined, all the Mule events will be combined together. Okay, and it will be passed to the next component in a flow. So here the next component is this one, transform payload. So here you will see all the aggregated Mule events that has been routed through each of these routes. Okay, I've also created a different POCs. There you will get more clarity, guys. So guys, the next our next topic is what is variable propagation. Okay, so guys, from the definition it is written every route starts with the same initial variable values. Modifications to a variable within a specific route do not affect other routes. So a variable is added or modified in one route after aggregation value defined by that route. If a variable is added or modified by more than one route, then the value will be added to the list of all the values defined for that variable within all the routes. Okay, so guys, I have one example for this in my Anypoint Studio. There you will get more clarity. Let me show you. So guys, as you can see, this is the example I have created to understand the variable propagation concept in scattergather. So guys, as you can see, three variables are there before scattergather are created: variable 1, variable 2 and variable 3. All these three variables consist of same thing, the same payload, which is this one: name, age and city. Let's say we want to assign some value to a variable 1 in first route. So like this we can use it. So we created one variable and we added one field inside that variable. We just appended one field. Okay, in second route what we did, we added one field in variable 2 payload. Okay, that field is address, and then again we used that variable and assigned hello world to that variable. And parallelly we are using variable 2 in third route as well. So guys, whatever variable 2 we are using here in second route will not impact any implementation in the third route. So third route will be treated differently and this second route variable will be treated differently. But in the final, once all these routes are executed successfully, in the final you will get variables like this. Let me show you. So the value of those variables in different routes will be combined together in final and you will get an array of these elements like this form. Okay, so when I will be doing a POC, there you will get more clarification what I am talking about, how these values will be combined when the same variable is used in a different routes. Okay, so guys, let's move on to the next topic. What will be the final result? So guys, as I okay, so guys, what will be the final result once all the routes are executed? So the final result basically looks like this. An object consists of all the information about all the routes. So 0 consists of 0 represents the first route, this 1 represents the second route, and so on, that 2 represents the third route. So like this form we will get the aggregated output in final as a final result, I can say. But if you want to extract the exact output, then you can use some data weave like this. With the help of this data weave you can extract the exact payload, okay, based on the use case or based on the scenarios you have. Okay, but usually we use data weave we use to flatten that payload and extract those values. Okay, okay, so guys, let's go to the Anypoint Studio and see how these use cases will work in different scenarios. Okay, so guys, this is the use case one, in which we will understand the variable propagation concept, how variable propagation works in scattergather. This is the second use case. Okay, here we will understand how you can transfer or you can read data from the files, and in the final how you can aggregate that data. Okay, okay, and in this third route, in this third use case, I have created one request component where we are calling a third party server. okay, and extracting data from there and combining those data in the final. Okay, and parallelly we will also understand about the error handling concept. If any call fails, how we can handle those errors in scatter gather. Okay, guys, let's start with the first use case. So guys, the application has been deployed. Let me hit this or trigger this flow from Postman. Okay, so I have provided one payload, name Sumit, age and city. This is the payload which we are going to transfer to the upcoming components. So it acts like a message source here. Okay, so let me click next. So guys, as you can see, three variables has been created. Variable 1, variable 2, variable 3 all consist of same thing which I have provided here. Okay, so let me click next. So guys, because it will process these three routes asynchronously, so while debugging it you might not get a sequential you can't see a sequential execution of these components. Okay, because it's asynchronous execution of all the different routes. All these different routes will be executed parallelly with the help of multiple threads. Okay, let me click next. Now it will go to the second because it's a parallel execution. Okay, okay guys, so as you can see, all the scatter gather routing has been processed successfully. So let's look at the variables, how the variables looks like. So in first variable you can see a name is there, Sumit, age 32, city Chandigarh, and address you can see address field has been appended because we are appended address field inside the route 1. Okay, so that's why in the final response of this variable we got this field appended in variable 1. Okay, and let's look at variable 3. So variable 3 consists of that same payload which we assigned to variable 1. Okay, so we used variable 3 in this third route and we assigned this address field to variable 3. Okay, and in the response you can see it consists of this. So in this response you can see it consists of this address field. Okay, as expected because we added that in the third route as a part of this variable 3. So guys, now let's look at variable 2. So as you know, in variable 2 also we assigned this same payload, okay, before hitting this scatter gather. But now after executing this scatter gather phase, what will be the value of variable 2? Because we used variable 2 in both of the routes, route number 2 and in route number 3 here. So in route number 2 initially we assigned this address field, we added this address field in the payload just like we did for other variables, and then we again updated this variable in the same route to hello world. Okay, as a part of this route 2, in the end we again updated this variable 2 to hello world. So the previous value of variable 2 got overridden. It got overridden. It overrides. Okay. So now the latest value of variable 2 in second route will be hello world. But at the same time we are using variable 2 in third route as well, which also consists of value hello world. So let's see in the final what type of output we will get for variable 2. So guys, as you can see, we got an array list just like we saw in our presentation, an array of two values. First value is hello world, this second another value is again hello world. So this first one denotes to this route and the second value denotes to this third route value. So guys, that's how this variable propagation works. If you are using same variable in across different routes, so that same variable in one route will not impact that variable in other routes, but in the final, okay, those values will get combined of those two different variables from two different routes, and the output will be like this, an array list an array having two values, as I showed you in my presentation. Let me show you again. So guys, as you can see, for example, in this variable 3 we got an array of these three values. So similarly we got in variable 2, just like we saw previously now. Okay, so I hope you understood this variable propagation concept clearly. Okay, so let's move on to the other use cases. Okay, where we will fetch data from the three different systems and aggregate them. Okay, and then we will see how it works. So let me resume it. Okay, so guys, let's move on to the second use case, where we will read data from the three different files, okay, and aggregate that data in the final. Okay, so let me hit this flow. So guys, this is the payload which we are going to pass as a message source. Okay, if I click next, okay, you can see the payload, but here you can see file read components. So we are reading from the file. So this is the file. Okay, so guys, because it's a CSV file, so we got a CSV response from this file after reading. Okay, having name, age and city, and having two records. Okay, the first record is Sumit, age 23, city Chandigarh, and the second record is Gulshan, age 34 and city Ludhiana. Okay, so we got two records. Okay, so all the routes has been processed parallelly or asynchronously. Okay, now we will see what the payload looks like. Okay guys, so guys, you can see a linked hash map structure payload we got. So this 0 denotes to first route, this one, this 1 denotes to second route, this one, and this 2 denotes to the third route, this one. So let me show you what the payload looks like in JSON format. I will simply write payload here. Let me copy this and paste it in Notepad. So guys, you can see this kind of payload structure we got. Okay, so you can clearly see, so this is the JSON format. I converted that payload into the JSON. So this 0 denotes to the first route. Okay, this 1 denotes to second route, and this 2 denotes to third route. Okay, and whatever payload we read from that file. Okay, so those are the payloads you can see. So in first route we didn't got any values. So name is there is no name, there is no age, there is no city. Okay, but in second route we got the values. Okay, so in second route we got this values under this payload field. Okay, okay, and in third route you can similarly see these values. So guys, to fetch these values, to fetch this payload from these routes, I have created one data view. Okay, so with the help of that data view we can fetch this payload from all the three routes and combine them, and in the final we can see the aggregated response. So guys, this is the data view I have created. So now let me evaluate this and show you what the payload looks like after applying this data with code. Okay, so guys, you can clearly see we got the combined response from all the three different routes. So first route consists of payload like this, second route consists of payload like this, okay, and third route consists of payload like this. Okay, so we combined all the payload from all the three different routes and returned to the client. So it has been returned to the client, you can see, whosoever triggered this request. So guys, from the word itself it is clear: scatter, gather. First it will scatter in the three different routes and then it will be gathered. We will gather that response from the three different routes, we will aggregate that and send to the client. Okay, I have one similar use case number third, but a little bit different from that of use case number two. In use case number two, we were listening from this three different files. Okay, but in third use case, we will hit the systems. Okay, we will write into the systems. Okay, or we will hit some client systems, I can say. Okay, so this is the file write operation I am performing, and this is the payload which I'm going to write here in this file. So this file location is this. Okay, so and write mode I have chose as override. So next time if I will hit, it will override this file with the new value. Okay, and guys, in the next flow I have this client call. I'm calling one another other system, and this is that system. Okay, you can see this. So this flow I'm calling, so you can consider it as a third-party system which I'm calling from my local, just for understanding purpose. Okay, okay guys, so let me deploy my application. So the application has been deployed. Let me hit this flow. This is use case number 3. Okay, so as to avoid this confusion, let me remove this from here. Okay, and give it as okay. So let me hit this trigger this flow. Okay, so you can see the flow has been triggered. I click on next. This is the payload which we are going to send to this scatter gather. So this payload acts like a mule event here. Okay, name Sumit, age 32, and city Chandigarh. Okay, so guys, as I showed you previously, now it will process these three routes asynchronously or parallelly. Okay, so now it will write it into the file. What it will write? It will write this payload. Okay, the payload which we have provided here. Okay, in CSV form. Okay, I will show you that file where it will write. Okay, so let me hit click next. Okay, now it will call that third-party client server. Okay, which is this one. So it's saying not found. Okay, let me check. So guys, because the path was client 1 and I'm trying to pass it as client 2. Okay, the endpoint in my case it's client 2, that's why it is failing. So guys, here we can cover one scenario. Let's say if some route fails. So as you can see, these two routes executed successfully, but the third one fails. What will happen? So guys, we already have a try catch block implemented. Okay, So what this way it will do, if any error occurs, it will go to another continue, set some payload, okay, and then it will go to the final component, this final payload transfer message, okay. Okay, as you can see now, and there it executed successfully. Okay, so guys, instead of this payload you can also provide like this, you can say like failure. Okay, you can specify like failure, which route has failed, route number 3 has failed, so that in the response you will get a clear idea what happens in the third route, why we didn't got any response from the third route, what is the reason. So we can save it. Okay, and we will execute this flow again and see what will happen if we got error in any of the routes. Okay, let me trigger this flow again. So the flow has been triggered. Next, next, next. Okay, now again we are trying to do that client call, but it will fail because the endpoint is wrong. Okay, so now how it will handle error, it will go to this on error continue. Okay, okay, it has created one payload in which it will write route 3 has failed. Okay, so while combining all the payloads from all the 3 different routes, we will get that value. Okay, so guys, if we see, so we got the clear response, guys. So in third route we got this as a failure, that route 3 has failed. Okay, so guys, based on the different use cases, based on the different scenarios, we can add error handling. So it is not like final that we can use error handling like this. So it depends upon you, it depends upon the use case, it depends upon the kind of scenarios you have in your project. Okay, so based on that you can use error handling. So this is just for explaining you. Okay, this was just an use case example to explain you that you can also handle errors, okay, in this get together. So how you want to handle that, you want to add error handling strategy at flow level, that also you can do. Okay, that is also possible. Okay, while so that when scatter gather will throw a Mulesoft composite routing exception, so that you have some error handling present here, and you can create some response which will be returned to the client if any error occurs in any of the routes. Okay, so guys, depend upon the use case, depend upon the kind of scenarios you are working on, based on that you can use these error handling techniques. Okay, okay guys, so let me correct this request from client 2 to client 1. Let me save it. Okay, so the application has been deployed. Let me trigger this flow again. Okay, so if I click next, it will write, first of all it will write, in second route it will log something, we are not calling any system. In third route we are calling a third party client with the help of this request component, that is basically this flow. Okay, and it will provide this payload. Okay, okay, so it will provide this payload, and in the final you can see 3 different responses, because this time that third request works successfully. So we got payload like this: name Sumit, age 32 and city Chandigarh. In second route we got name as SUMITZ. Okay, in first also we got SUMITZ. In third one we got Sumit, because we are calling in third route, we are calling that client flow, and in client flow we have set the name as Sumit. So that's the reason we in third route we got name as Sumit like this. Okay, and guys, one last point I'm going to explain you, that you can also execute scatter gather sequentially. But if you want to execute it sequentially, you just need to specify max concurrency as 1. So what will happen in this case? In this case, scatter gather will use only one thread. Only one thread will be allocated to execute one route at a time. So after executing one route, it will go to the another route, and then it will go to the another route. So as a result, so you can see it is executing it sequentially. Okay, so guys, let me show you how it works. So I'm going to set max concurrency as 1. So one thread will be allocated. Okay, and that's one thread will execute one route at a time, and then other route at a time, and then the third route at a time. Okay, so let me show you. Let me save it and deploy. So the application has been deployed, and I'm going to trigger this same flow and going to show you how it processes sequentially when we provided a max concurrency as 1. So I triggered this flow, guys. If I click next, so first route, okay, you can see it directly jumped to the second component, because that thread which has been allocated, only one thread has been allocated, so it is executing one route at a time. Now it will go to the second route, it will execute that second route sequentially first, and then it will go to the third route, it will execute it sequentially, guys. Okay, and then in final it will aggregate the response just like it used to. Okay, and in final we got the response, but the only difference this time is that it executed it sequentially with the help of only one thread, guys. Okay, so guys, I hope you understood everything about the scatter gather. Okay, please let us know if you have any queries. If you have any doubts, you can email us in the email which we have provided in the description. Okay, thank you everyone, guys. See you soon. Bye.